Thank you, woodwinds. That was always nice when we have our woodwinds here. When, just a little more than a year ago, it was that time where I was just getting to know the congregation, meeting with the search committee, thinking about meeting and greeting, coming to serve as in ministry here at Tree of Life. And one of the things that I did during that time that probably anybody in a job search, whether they're a minister or some other kind of job, I checked out the website. And one of the things that caught my eye was that tagline, rooted in love, reaching for justice. And I've been thinking about those words a lot these last couple of weeks because in recent weeks, there has just been so much information coming at us in just rapid speed. So many executive orders, so many decisions, so many things that just keep happening rapidly. And I've heard more than one analyst, more than one commentator say that's deliberate. That's known as flooding the zone, that it's meant to make us feel overwhelmed. As my dad used to say, that it's taking 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag. It's all overflowing, right? And so it makes sense for us, even if we intellectually know that this is a strategy meant to make us feel overwhelmed, it's still hard not to feel that way, right? We feel overwhelmed, unmoored, disconnected, maybe unrooted. Simone Weil, the French philosopher, activist, educator, in 1949 wrote about the need for roots and said, "To be rooted is perhaps the most important and least recognized needs of the human soul." Being rooted is a need. And so thinking about being rooted in love, that being rooted enables us as a people to understand what it is that we're based on, what we've developed, what's influencing us, who we are and who we're about. Our roots give us our sense of belonging. And here we say we're rooted in love. I took some time to look just at the word rooted and looked at a couple of dictionaries, and Macmillan's dictionary offers two different definitions. If one thing is rooted in another, it's based on, has developed from, or is influenced by it. And the other definition of rooted is it's strong and difficult to destroy. Being rooted in love gives us strength during difficult times. It's not a new idea. In the book of Ephesians, the epistle to Ephesians, which epistle is just a fancy word for letter in the Christian scriptures, is estimated to be written somewhere around 60 AD. There's a passage that talks about that a life of faith requires heart and life that's rooted and grounded in love. Those are the words that are used, rooted and grounded in love. Fast forward to just this last summer in 2024 at a gathering, national gathering of Unitarian Universalists at the Unitarian Universalist Annual General Assembly and Association. Congregations voted and approved a covenant that included these words about love, that as Unitarian Universalists, we covenant, that's a sacred promise, we covenant congregation to congregation and throughout our association to support and assist one another in our ministries. We draw from heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love. And it goes on to say, love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our sacred values through the spiritual discipline of love. So from 60 AD to 2024 to now, being rooted in love. Love keeps us connected, and love is the ground of our being. Looking around in this congregation, I see many people who care for each other, who care for the world around us, whose lives and hearts and works are rooted in love. In this space, we have teachers, we have people who are caring for family members, we have scientists, activists, artists, healers of the mind and body, and in so many people in this room, people who hear the voice of love, love for family and friends, love for the earth, love for humanity, love for beauty, love of who we are and who we are always becoming. We are rooted in love. For those of us who were here yesterday for Marsha Johnson's Celebration of Life service, there's a quote from her on the cover where she herself said, "Deep is the well from which we draw, a well of mercy and steadfast love." It's in our DNA. It's part of who we are. But there's more to that tagline, right? It's rooted in love, reaching for justice. Love is embodied. Love takes action. It's found in the real actions of human beings. This is true on a personal and interpersonal level, and it's true on a social level. That when we're able to fall in love with the world around us, to fall in love with humanity, even while recognizing the human capacity for causing harm, our love becomes action. You might have heard Cornel West put it this way, that tenderness is what love looks like in private, but justice is what love looks like in public. And when there's so much injustice, when injustice is being cheered and celebrated in calls for mass deportation, and these rapid-fire executive orders that seek to roll back hard-won human rights and civil rights, when abuse and violence against women is ignored when considering who can be a government official or leader, when statements and symbols of blatant racism are embraced, it can be hard to find a focus or know where to start when reaching for justice. There are all kinds of gems in our gray hymnal, our Singing the Living Tradition. And in the back there's writings and words that it's not only hymns that are found in our hymnal. And in reading number 457 in our gray hymnal, the Unitarian minister, American author, historian, Edward Everett Hale says this and reminds us of this, that I'm only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. I can do something. Setting aside time to call, write, or email elected officials, whether that's on a national level or a local level or a state level. Finding ways to be involved in local, civil, public, and political engagement. And where we can, looking for ways to do harm reduction, ways that we can slow things down. Just down the road, there's a organization that we've invited here for our Share the Plate called the Youth and Family Center of McHenry County. Coming up, they have a Know Your Rights training on February 17th at 6 p.m. So for folks that are thinking about how do we share the word around rights that people have who may be being impacted by ICE and deportation, that may be a place to start. They're just down the road. UUNI, which is the UU Advocacy Network of Illinois, has a legislative advocacy training, and this one's online, Wednesday, February 19th. So that can be done from home from 7 to 8:15 p.m. Strengthen our advocacy skills. The Illinois Coalition on Immigrant and Refugee Rights have a series of advocacy days in Springfield. For folks that would like to take that, you don't have to take the advocacy training to go to those days. They're two separate things, but there's a nice synergy there, right? They have days in Springfield on February 26th, March 20th, April 10th, May 22nd, one each month. You don't have to make them all. There's more information on that on their website, the Illinois Coalition of Immigrant and Refugee Rights. Some of us this last spring took a class together called Transgender Inclusion in Congregations. It was planned by an organization called Transforming Hearts Collective, and one of the instructors and leaders of that organization, Alex Capitan, will be in Madison on February 22nd to do a workshop called The Spiritual Work of Trans Justice and Safety. That's also available online, and we're working on creating a watch party here for folks that would like to watch it with other people, but it can also be watched from home. And Madison's not that far away for folks that would like to drive or find some folks to carpool with. Saturday, February 29th, Irene and some of the folks from our welcoming congregation, our welcoming congregation renewal team have a film.
March 29th.
Oh, March 29th. Well, thank you. I jumped ahead a month. Thank you for correcting that. March 29th. That's why you were looking at me going, Dave, what are you talking about? There is this documentary film called Major, which is an incredible story of a woman, Miss Major, who is a black transgender woman and elder who's just been a leader in transgender rights, as well as in leading some of the charge for rights for prisoners and people who are imprisoned. So those are just a few of the things that are happening here and around us, and probably if you spend some time chatting with each other, we all probably know a few more, because we are a people that are reaching for justice, and we'll keep adding to that list. Martin Luther King Jr., Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. said that we need leaders not in love with money, but in love with justice. Not in love with publicity, but in love with humanity. He speaks of a leadership rooted in love for justice, for humanity, and for each other. Leaders who, to borrow the words I've been borrowing from you, leaders who are rooted in love and reaching for justice. Reaching, again, I pulled out the dictionary and found a couple of definitions. Reaching can be stretching out our arm, reaching towards something that's just out of our hands reach, trying to touch something, trying to grasp something. Reaching is also to arrive at a place, especially if we spent a long time or a lot of effort traveling to get there. So I'd like to close today's message with another letter, an epistle, so to speak, that was written by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, and it's called Letter to a Young Activist During Troubled Times, but I would say it's also a letter to those of us that are young at heart during troubled times. And she writes, "My esteemed ones, do not lose heart We are made for these times. I've heard from so many recently who are deeply and properly bewildered. They are concerned about the state of affairs in our world right now. It is hard to say which one of the current egregious matters has rocked people's worlds or beliefs more. Ours is a time of almost daily, jaw-dropping astonishment and often righteous rage over the latest degradations of what matters to most visionary people. You are right in your assessments. The luster and hubris some have aspired to while endorsing acts so heinous against children, elders, everyday people, the poor, the unguarded, the helpless, is breathtaking. Yet I urge you, ask you, gentle you, to please not spend your spirit dry by bewailing these difficult times. Especially do not lose hope. Most particularly because the fact is, we were made for these times. Yes, for years we've been learning, practicing, been in training just waiting to meet this exact plane of engagement. I cannot tell you often enough that we are definitely the leaders we've been waiting for, and that we have been raised since childhood for this time. I grew up on the Great Lakes, she says, and I recognize a seaworthy vessel when I see one. Regarding awakened souls, there have never been more able crafts in the waters than there are right now across the world. And they are fully provisioned and able to signal one another as never before in the history of humankind. I'd like to take your hands for a moment and assure you that you are built well for these times. Look out over the prow. There are millions of boats of righteous souls on the waters with you. In your deepest bones, you have always known this is so. Even though your veneers may shiver from every wave in the stormy roil, I assure you that the long timbers composing your prow and rudder come from a forest greater. That long green lumber is known to withstand storms, to hold together, to hold its own, to advance regardless. We have a heritage and history of being gutted, and yet remember this especially, we have also of necessity perfected the knack of resurrection. Over and over again, we have been the living proof that that which has been exiled, lost, or foundered can be restored to life again. This is as true and a sturdy prognosis for the destroyed worlds around us as it was for our own once mortally wounded souls. In any dark time, there is a tendency to veer toward fainting over how much is wrong or unmended in the world. Do not focus on that. Do not make yourself ill with overwhelm. There is a tendency to fall into being weakened by perseverating on that which is outside your reach, by what cannot yet be. Do not focus there. That is spending the wind without raising the sails. We are needed. That is all we can know. And though we meet resistance, we more so will meet great souls who will hail us, love us, and guide us. And we will know them when they appear. If you study the physics of a waterspout, you will see that the outer vortex rolls far more rapidly than the inner one. To calm the storm means to quiet the outer layer, to cause it, by whatever countervailing means, to swirl much less, to more evenly match the velocity of the inner, far less volatile core. till whatever has been lifted into such a vicious tunnel falls back to the earth, lays down, and is peaceable again. One of the most important steps you can take to help calm the storm is to not allow yourself to be taken in a flurry of overwrought despair, thereby accidentally contributing to the swale and the swirl. Ours is not the task of fixing the entire world all at once, but stretching out to mend the part of the world that is within our reach. Any small, calm thing that one can do to help another soul, to assist some portion of this poor, suffering world, will help immensely. It is not given to us to know which acts or by whom will cause the critical mass to tip toward an enduring good. What is needed for dramatic change is an accumulation of acts, adding to, adding more, continuing. We know that it does not take everyone on earth to bring justice and peace, but only a small, determined group of people who will not give up during the first, second, or 100th gale. One of the most calming and powerful actions you can do to intervene in a stormy world is to stand up and show your soul. Soul on deck shines like gold. The light of the soul throws sparks, can send up flares, builds signal fires, causes proper matters to catch fire. To display the lantern of soul in shadowy times like these, to be fierce and to show mercy towards others, are acts of immense bravery and greatest necessity. Struggling souls can catch light from other souls who are fully lit and willing to show it. If you would help to calm the tumult, this is one of the strongest things you can do. In that spirit, I hope you will remember this. When a great ship is in the harbor and moored, it is safe, there can be no doubt. But that is not what great ships are built for. So this comes with love and prayer that you remember who you came from and why you came to be on this beautiful, needful earth. A letter to young and young in heart activists during troubled times. Do not lose heart. We are made for these times. So may we remember that we are a people that are rooted in love. We are a people who are reaching for justice. And we do that work together. Amen. Ashe, and blessed be.